Right now, let's talk with Dallas Cowboys Executive Vice President Stephen Jones. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
We're good. Now, I feel like we almost cracked you last week with some fun wordplay. Can I take another shot at it?
Absolutely. I like it.
All right. If we can get, I guess, just a penne for your thoughts. If you can tell us the Parson or Parsons that you guys might draft that would make the rest of the NFL pay.
Well, obviously very creative again, but I'm not ready to crack.
Okay, fair enough. Now, I want to get to the draft, but also within the last 8 minutes or so, we are getting word that Sean Lee is retiring. Can you tell us anything about any discussions you've had with him or confirm that or anything along those lines?
Well, we've had a lot of discussions with Sean, and, obviously he's just such a special guy to us. He's been, a great leader for us and great football player, but, certainly, having discussions about, what his future is going to be. But I think he's the right one to really speak to that. And until he does that, then, we're going to kind of wait and see what he has to say.
I am kind of curious, Stephen, whenever you've talked to, you've seen a lot of players retire. Whenever you talk to them, what is their typical, biggest purpose? Is it the physical part of the sport, or is there something else that is a deeper thing there?
I think that's it, and it's just these great ones, whether it's a Witten, whether it's a Lee, these great football players, they're so driven to compete and be great. I think in our particular case, unfortunately, they also want to keep coming back to get that elusive championship ring. And they're just such fierce competitors that, it's very difficult for them to step aside in spite of the fact in some cases their physical is starting to, certainly not be what it was when they were younger. So, it's just very, that's what made them great, and what makes them great is their just competitive desire to be the best, and certainly their desire for, to want to win championships for their team. So, that part of it's difficult, and I think certainly those two things are huge driving factors that keep these great football players going.
Stephen, if I have your career right, you were a linebacker at Arkansas, correct?
I was actually a hybrid. I was a cross between a backer and a safety. I was a rover. And,
okay.
So I was mainly a special teams player would be the better way to put it.
Okay. I was wondering, when it comes to you watching college or you talking to your players, do you relate more to defense? Do you relate more to a position? Is there a spot when you watch, you're like, man, I always seem to be very good at maybe predicting what this position is going to be for these players, and then there's another position where you're like, man, I struggle at watching that position and kind of getting my predictions right?
Well, as you know, I was a quarterback coming into college and recruited as a quarterback and loved to play the position. And then, as you do know, my son is certainly an accomplished quarterback in high school and competing at the college level to try to be a quarterback in the SEC at Arkansas. So, I enjoy scouting all aspects of the game, whether it's offensive line, whether it's the receivers, the running backs, the quarterbacks, the tight ends, or the front seven on defense, or for that matter, the back end, because certainly was involved in that as well. One of the things, a lot of people will tell you is ex-quarterbacks, really make, if they've got the athletic ability, can really make, they're very aware and know the whole defense or know the whole offense because they've studied the game. But, probably the hardest thing at the end of the day for me to wrap my hands around is just, it's probably the offensive line guys. I think it's, just like any of the positions, I think when you're seeing the really, really good ones, it's easier to see, hey, understand why this guy's different from the rest of them. Boy, you start getting, down to the middle rounds and into the late rounds, then, they can all start to run together on you a little bit, unless it's something that you do every day and you're scouting every day. My hat's off to some of these scouts, how they dig up the, what's probably the difference in a guy getting drafted versus being a priority free agent versus not getting an opportunity to go to camp. And, it's the full body of work that goes into scouting. It's not just what they put on tape. It's, their football character, their personal character. Unfortunately, their health in a lot of cases really becomes a tough deal because a lot of these guys played hard, but because they played so hard, they have an injury history. So, and then there's just the mental part of this. Some young men pick it up quicker and faster than others, and it's natural to them, and others struggle with it, which can unfortunately play a role in whether you're going to be a successful player in the NFL. I know that's a long-winded way of answering your question, but it's just an interesting thing that after 30 years of being in draft rooms and being around a lot of great scouts, being around a lot of great personnel people, a lot of great coaches who study it, you learn a lot, and certainly it's been a great journey for me.
In terms of that football character, that general character, or the potential injury histories, the Cowboys have not been afraid to take some risks on people with injuries or potential character background issues. How does that conversation go internally with the team? Like, how do you balance, hey, this guy is really good versus he could be an issue off the field? How do those conversations take place?
Yeah, I think it's just it's the risk reward at the end of the day. And as I said, there's probably a real big, there is a real big difference between a real first-round skilled player and, for that matter, a second and a third rounder. And, there's a distinction. We only have, from 16 to 20 of them every year. And then when you get in that second round, especially the bottom half of it, you're more into your third-round players. And if there's what you really consider to be a first-round type player there, but he's dropping because either the physical challenges that he had, and that was probably why Sean Lee fell to the second, or whether it's the off the field. Obviously, Randy Gregory's a great example of one who's working through that, and certainly making us feel good about the pick we made in him. He's had his challenges, which my hat's off to him. He's addressed and continues to improve, which is the most important thing as a man off the field. But, all that comes into play. But certainly you take guys like Sean Lee and Randy Gregory, they jump off the tape on you in terms of their skill level as a first-round type player. But then, as I told you, the physical medical goes into that. The off the field goes into it. A lot of other things go into what makes that final grade.
Stephen Jones joining us here on the KNC Masterpiece on 105.3 The Fan as we got draft week coming up on us right now. I do want to kind of hit real quick on Sean Lee one more time. If he does announce and make his conversation there, does that change y'all's plans? And are you looking maybe at linebacker at somebody that can push for a starting job, or just are you saying, well, we need more depth there?
Well, obviously, the way this thing shaped out on defense more and more with so many sub packages and pass rushing and all that, the SAM DPR is an important role and a little different than, your, first, second down linebackers, sub linebackers like, of course, Leighton and Jalen man those spots for us. But, and that's what Sean did for us as well. And, you're always looking to have depth there, but you're also knowing that, having to study the cap situation, whether it's Jalen, who obviously we have signed, or a guy like Leighton, who we know is going to be coming up for contract. So you always, you do want to have depth there. And certainly, as I mentioned earlier, I think we can use defensive help probably at every position, every level of the defense, whether it's front seven or the back end. We'll be looking to improve ourselves on defense.
I know it's coming up pretty quick. Have y'all exercised, or will you be exercising the fifth-year option on LVE?
We haven't made that comment or had deep discussions on that yet, and certainly will be coming up for us, and we'll be discussing that after the draft. But as you said, it's right around the corner.
All right, Stephen, so there's been a fun hypothetical happening here at the Fan, and that is with you guys having the 10th pick, if one of the quarterbacks fall to you and you guys start taking phone calls. If it's New England, let's just say, that quarterback, you really don't have to play much in his career. But if it's Washington who calls, and you know they're coming up to get a quarterback, does it just have to be an unbelievable deal because you're giving them what they think is their future quarterback? Like, how much does it change when it's a quarterback you know that team's coming up to get, and then maybe that team being in your division and giving them the quarterback they want?
I think it's always in the back of your mind, anytime it's in your division. At the same time, I think if it's, a great, if we think it's a great deal for us, in spite of, even though it may be a quarterback that they think's a great player, and we may believe that or not. In some cases, you won't even know. But I think you're naive to think that it doesn't play into your mind a little bit when it's a divisional, one of our divisional competitors that's moving up, and the trade better be really good.
We talked with Kellen Mond this morning, Stephen, and I asked him specifically about a couple of cornerbacks that have been linked to you guys in J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain, and I just wanted to kind of get his thoughts on what he saw. I'm kind of curious for you, when you were watching those guys, did you see something in Kellen Mond where you're like, oh, hold on, let's take a further look at this kid?
Well, Kellen had just an amazing career. He's played a lot of football compared to some of these quarterbacks. I mean, he's pretty much started for him for 4 years, played a lot of football, played at a high level. A&M had some really good football teams. I guess they're, just on the outside looking in by one team this year from being in the
We got ripped off, Stephen. Just go ahead and say it. We got ripped off.
So, when you're talking about a quarterback of his stature and one that's, a winning quarterback, then, he's obviously getting long, hard looks and have nothing but respect for what he's done there at A&M and the career that he's had there. He's a, sharp guy. He's very serious about it, and he's all in and trying to be the very best quarterback he can be.
Now, we had a lot of conversations about, hit rate and different metrics by which teams measure success. And I know after the draft, everyone thinks they have the greatest draft and all this and that. But you look back at the history of the Dallas Cowboys for the entirety of the draft. Do you look at it and say, we are good at drafting?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've really have improved. I'll say this. I think you have to continue to look for ways to get better. And one of the things I'd tell you, whether it was a Bill Parcells, whether it was a Jason Garrett, whether it's a Mike McCarthy, you learn from these top coaches about the different types of personnel departments that they've been around, how they've gone about it. I think you continue to get better, and I'm a believer in that. You're either getting better or you're falling back. But under Will's leadership and guidance, I do believe that we've gotten a lot of different moving parts of the draft right. And, I fully expect us to have another successful draft. And, certainly as an organization, we believe, that you draft these players and you play them. We've got a way we go about it to where we like to get a consensus in terms of the buy-in. We not only want our scouts to love the players, but we want our coaches to want to coach them. We want the trainers to be happy with them. And then, of course, naturally, when you start to get all that, then Jerry and I feel a lot more comfortable about drafting that player. And I think that's why we've had success and why our guys have gone out there and played and, for the most part, played really well. So we feel, like I said, really good about our preparation for this up-and-coming draft. And I really feel like we're going to help our football team, for this coming year.
Stephen, I heard you talking to G-Bag Nation about how many mock drafts you guys do before the draft to prepare for what could happen before and right after you guys pick. I look at right after you guys pick, and it's New York and Philadelphia. In a lot of those mocks, I don't know which guys are going in y'all's, but a lot of them have the Alabama receivers going 11 and 12. So how concerned are you, I don't know if that's the correct word, that Waddle and Smith could be headed to your division?
Well, the only thing I'll say to this, I can't really speak to what Philly and New York and Washington are going to do. I will say this, those two Alabama receivers are special. And they just jump off the tape at you. Both of them do. They all have all kinds of juiciness, and I mean they're coming off the ball and they're separating, and there's there's not a lot of small windows with those guys that Mac Jones is trying to hit. I'm not taking anything away from him, but these guys are open and open big, and they're gonna. I can't imagine they're not going to be great football players in our league. And whoever's playing against them, you better hold on because they're really, really good football players.
Well, we always appreciate talking with you, especially these last couple weeks. And I know you said you got to wait and be respectful, but I was going to give you the opportunity. If you wanted to say thank you, Sean, or any such things on the way out the door, we would be glad to hear it.
Like I said, I think Sean's mulling over what he's going to do there, and he's the appropriate guy to let everybody know when he's comfortable with that decision.
All right. Well, thank you again. And if you need to give us a call before Thursday because y'all have really locked in some decisions, we'll be glad to hear it at any point.
Be ready to be an open book. Can't wait.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Stephen Jones right here on 105.3 The Fan.